and welcome to this joint session between Live EO and 3R Sustainability. We're very happy to see people connecting. We will give it a little bit for you to join and do not miss any minute from this amazing session that we have prepared for you. A quick round of introduction. My name is Cesar Carreño. I am Associate Director for EU Operations for 3R Sustainability. And yeah, I am the one merging all of your inquiries and requests for support within the European Union and the specific regulations linked to CSRD, PPWR, EPR, CBAN, greenhouse gas emissions inventories, science-based targets, so forth and so on. And we have a selected and very amazing panel today. I will give the floor for a quick introduction to Ian.
Hi, my name is Ian Kay. I'm a packaging consultant here at 3R Sustainability. I'm working on our product and packaging service lines in the US and the EU. So focus a lot on the PPWR, EPR, all that good stuff. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Ian. And joining us from Live EO, we have Alberta.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Cesar, for the invitation. I'm Alberta, and I'm a partnership lead at Live EO.
Great. And then, of course, Tim.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Tim. I work as a solutions engineer and EUDR expert for Live EO, helping potential customers and new customers get the most out of our solution. Nice to meet everyone.
Amazing. Being 15:01, I will give 60 more seconds for people to join. Important to highlight that this is a joint session between 3R Sustainability and Live EO. So we will be running through the most pressing regulations that we have seen that may affect different organizations within the packaging sector and packaged goods, especially importers, and the importance of having a traceability system in place to support submission to the regulatory requirements in this space. No, we can start the session. Next slide, yeah, please. A quick introduction on 3R Sustainability. We are a consultancy. Our headquarters are in Pittsburgh, in the USA, and I am leading the business development here in the European Union. So we deliver services related to sustainability, accredited CDP solutions provider. We are a strategic partner for EcoBody, certified B Corp organization, corporation. We offer services on different fronts, for example, sustainability management system, reporting, sports and events, sustainable supply chain and procurement, climate, built environment, assurance, product and packaging, and sustainability. Important to highlight, we not only offer services and disclosure and reporting, but also on verifications and assurance through our sister company, SAS, where we can offer verification of greenhouse gas emissions inventories, sustainability report, and climate risk assessment. Please feel free to reach out with any specific inquiry that you have. And of course, we do have more webinars coming. You can see here the upcoming webinars on May 13th. One specifically on LEED with their version 5, number 5. What's new on what to do next on May 13th. And on May 19th, climate risk in practice, from data to decision across operations and strategy, all very closely related to the sustainability performance in your different organizations. This being said, what is our agenda today? We will be presenting everything related to traceability and how traceability is a cross-cutting principle throughout different regulations. We have selected specifically PPWR, EPR, and of course the EUDR. And later on, our good friends from Live EO will be presenting how their tool can support in securing traceability for the preparation of specific regulatory and compliance documentations, particularly everything that needs to be uploaded or presented, for instance, on the different compilation centers as well, for instance, the DDS that you need to present, so forth and so on. No? But moreover, there are other links that float internally between the regulations. For instance, you might think that EUDR is entirely different than PPWR and that EPR, but they are linked and interconnected. But not only among regulations. For example, if you are developing a life cycle assessment, this could also be a good point, because most of the time people just, for instance, with the presented packaging, they understand that they source their pulp from a specific region or from a specific country, but within that specific country, they don't know where specifically. So having geolocation systems can support this process, security, traceability, transparency, so forth and so on, that can add to the narrative of your public statements. Next slide, please, Ian. First of all, let's go through a very quick poll to understand a few things, to see how can we further support you. I will be launching the poll. Please feel free to answer. I will give around 60 seconds for you to answer this poll to understand how wide our audience is. And that way, maybe we can prepare some specific answers or topics of discussion during the Q&A session. 62% manufacturing. That's, of course, as expected. We have retail, consumer goods, technology, others. This is very good to see. I will give around 20 more seconds to see who else is answering these. Okay, that's good to see. I will let you see the results. As you can see, manufacturing leads the attendance here. Then, of course, we have in the other sector, retail, consumer goods, and technology, as expected. Thank you so much for participating. You will be seeing other two polls through the presentation. If you have any particular question, please use the Q&A box that you can see on top. Place your questions there, so we will be very happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. This being said, let's go with our very first topic, traceability as a principle. Some of you might be very familiar with it, but then again, traceability has different definitions depending on where you are, the principle, the regulation, the standards, so forth and so on. So as we can see, how traceability is implemented in the EU, well, there is a consistent interpretation within the European Union. No? Allows you the ability to identify the origin of a product or a material, where is its source, how to track its movement from the supply chain, ability to link inputs, processes, and outputs. This is very important, particularly in a specific process where transparency can be an added value, not only because you need to report to the European Union, but also to your customer as well. Maybe your customer requires additional information to develop a life cycle assessment, which very specific data that is required to allocate emissions to a specific province within a country, within a region. And not only this, it also allows you the ability to access this information quickly for compliance, safety, and sustainability purpose. So traceability is not only important to have it in place, to have a monitoring system in place, but you also need to have a way to secure that this information is truthful to your processes. So then again, you need to provide some sort of safety net for the users of your results to be able to trust your communications. And the third part should be how efficient are you communicating these principles, not only to the transnational regulatory regulation, for instance, within the European Union, but also on which other specific fronts you need to provide this information. No? How do you share your traceability? Is it in a report? Is it through your website? Is it a specific code within your product or your service, etc.? So remember these three pillars: the monitoring system in place, then of course the reporting in place, how do you communicate, and the verification, how do you secure assurance. So this is what is commonly known as an MRV system, which is widely used for different fronts in the climate change, but these pillars can be transferable to any other data managing principle as well. No? Moreover, we will see that in the next table that we can see on the next slide, you can see how is it defined, the core definition, scope, the direction of traceability, level of detail, primary objective, data requirements, system type, and the traceability depth for different regulations. As you can see, there is an EU definition, which of course provides a much more simplified overview. For instance, the core definition is that allows to trace and follow a product through all stages of production, While, for instance, for EPR, it's not formally defined, but it's implied within the reporting obligations with the PPWR as well, not explicitly defined, but embedded in the life cycle data requirements. Again, remember, it might not be properly written or described, but it's there. The fact that it's not written does not mean that it's out of scope. It means that it's embedded in the explicit obligations. No, and of course within the EUDR, of course, is operationalized very strictly because of due diligence as well. No, the scope can vary. You can have, depending on the product that you place on the EU market, could be either food, packaging, packaged goods, so forth and so on. The direction of traceability, there are different specific fronts. For instance, within the EU definition, it's one step back, one step forward. So it takes into account the whole value chain. For the EPR, is primarily mass flow tracking, what is placed on the market, and what are the waste outcomes of this. For PPWR as well, life cycle tracking because of composition, recyclability, reuse, and for the EUDR is upstream traceability to origin. So go all the way back using geolocation, for instance, because you need to have this in a more visual way because you are not there. So then you use services as the ones from our friends from Live EU, of course. No? Once you receive this table, please feel free to run through it. We have put this together. Myself, I have been personally reading a lot of regulations these days. Yeah, but the level of detail that we have tried to input here will be very useful for you to understand what level of effort is required and how can you maximize the request of information. If you're going to one of your suppliers to request 1 point of data, it makes no difference 1 point or 3 points at the same time. If you need to check 3 points of data 3 times during the year, it will just be a waste of time. You better maximize this, prepare a comprehensive questionnaire for your supplier to fill it in due time. No, this also impacts, for instance, on the preparation of scope 3 because of packaging and end of life, so forth and so on, on life cycle assessment, etc., etc. So you can, I wouldn't say kill, but catch many birds in one go. No, so important for you to understand how traceability is a cross-cutting principle across all of these regulations. I will give the floor to Ian now. He will be running us through additional regulations. Ian?
Awesome. Thank you, Cesar. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining. Again, my name is Ian Kay, consultant here at 3R, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the traceability within PPWR and EPR. So before we get into some of the traceability aspects, I think it's important to highlight how PPWR and EPR are connected, because they are very connected. So first, the EU Packaging and Packaging Waste Regulation, or PPWR, is a comprehensive EU regulation governing packaging design, use, and waste management for all packaging placed on the EU market. It replaces the old Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, which allowed countries and member states to have kind of their own individual interpretation of the laws itself. So there was not a lot of harmonization around different recyclability, recycled content, waste reduction targets, which the PPWR aims to change. So it sets requirements for the following: recyclability. They'll grade your kind of packaging recyclability for performance between A through D. Recycled content percentages in your packaging, different on-pack labeling requirements, along with waste reduction as well. And so how PPWR kind of connects with EPR is that it harmonizes these rules for EPR across the EU. So that it sets mandatory eco-modulation fees based on that recyclability grade of your packaging, again, A through D, and then also defines who the producer is that has to handle the EPR obligations. So one way I like to think about it is PPWR is the ticket guy at the gate that lets you into the game, lets you place the packaging on the EU marketplace, and then the EPR kind of evaluates your performance against some of these sustainability requirements and then charges you fees based on that performance. So EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, it establishes a framework requiring producers to cover the costs of managing packaging at end of life. So the producer is defined under the PPWR. It's the first entity to place a product onto the EU marketplace. So producers can be anyone from the EU importers, EU manufacturers, and even foreign suppliers, whether that's online or not, who offer a product directly to end users in the EU without the intervention of an importer. So if a supplier across in the US, for example, is using that importer within the EU. That importer would then be the producer. But if not, if they're placing it directly onto the market, the US-based supplier would then be the producer and be obligated for the EPR different fees. So producers must register with each national EPR program where they place packaging and then pay the required fees. So again, EPR is kind of operationalizing some of the targets and sustainability requirements within PPWR. And then based on how you perform within those kind of requirements of PPWR, they will charge you the required fees. If you are a non-EU producer, you need to kind of appoint a local authorized representative or an AR to ensure compliance with these EPR programs across the EU. So getting into traceability, there's a lot of overlap between PPWR and EPR within traceability. And a lot of it is, if I can sum it up in kind of one line, is companies need more data. So they must provide and track data on a number of different things of all their packaging materials and packaging use in each EU market. For example, on the PPWR side, you need to understand material composition. So that's what plastic type it is, any additives that you're adding in there, because there are also some regulations around what types of additives that you can use, how much, if they're intentionally added with PFAS, for example, and more. Companies need to track and provide data on the recycled content, that is the percentage that they use within their packaging data. They need to understand their packaging weight and format. A lot of this is going to be used to kind of assess some of the reduction targets that are within PPWR itself. You also need to understand the reusability and recyclability performance. Again, that recyclability performance specifically is tied to EPR, where they'll grade your packaging between A through D, and then charge you that eco-modulation fee that's associated with that. The PPWR is also requiring data and tracking on packaging identifiers. So that's pretty much any packaging identifier, from the SKU level to the batch, along with any of the digital product passport linkages as well. So the more data, the better when it kind of comes to some of your packaging stuff. It then also requires your labeling information. So it does set requirements on what on-pack claims you can make. And then if you do make some of these on-pack claims, you must be able to substantiate those claims. If you're saying recyclable, you need to be able to prove that it's recyclable. And then lastly is the life cycle data. So this is a lot, the LCA kind of stuff. It supports some of the circularity initiatives within PPWR, along with some of those product packaging digital product passports as well. So a lot of the PPWR data that you are going to be tracking for your packaging actually then will become the inputs for some of your EPR stuff as well. So again, a lot of connection between these two regulations. But specifically on the EPR side, companies will need to track and provide data on the quantities of packaging they're using. Again, this is some of that material composition, the product type itself, and then which country and which EU market you're actually placing that packaging into. Producer identification is also very important because the producer can kind of vary from case to case based on importer, manufacturer, foreign online sales. Understanding and being able to track who the producer is becomes very important in understanding who is obligated for those EPR requirements. Furthermore, on the EPR side, you will need to track data on your packaging collection, recycling, and recovery outcomes. So this again kind of goes with a lot of the recyclability stuff. So how your packaging performs in recyclability will directly tie into the amount of eco-modulation fees and other EPR fees that you will have to pay. All of these kind of data inputs together are essentially going to make you ensure that you have accurate reporting to the authorities and PROs. The PRO being the Producer Responsibility Organization. They're the organization that run a lot of the country's individual EPR programs. So having more data on all of your packaging stuff, where it's going, all across the supply chain is necessary, and to ensure that you're kind of accurately reporting and accurately being charged for the packaging that you are using within each EU market. The last two, kind of talked about this one a little bit already, is the eco-modulation fees. So basically how your recyclability performance is tracked and graded will be how you are charged for those eco-modulation fees. So being able to have data on that will just ensure that you're not overpaying or underpaying the fees that you need to be able to pay. And then lastly, providing audit trails for compliance verification. So just being ready with all this substantiation, all this documentation, again, just a lot more data to prove that you are complying with PPWR and both EPR. So I'll say, well, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Essentially, companies just need more data. The more data, the better. More to protect your guys' selves from any claims or any challenges that some of these programs may have against you. And then I think it's also important to understand and mention that for both PPWR and EPR, a lot of these data that you are going to be tracking and a lot of the packaging materials that you're going to be tracking will also become a lot of the inputs for your corporate sustainability reporting directives. So all of this data that you're using for this can also be used for that, which makes it really more harmonized within the EU, which is great. So we're going to move on to our second poll. Cesar, if you want to pull that up.
Indeed. We have some questions there that we can answer while we make sense of the poll, which I'm launching right now. Very interesting question that people is placing here. If you do have any additional question, please just put it there. We will give some minutes towards the end of the presentation for both 3R Sustainability and Live EO to answer all of your questions. Yeah, for instance, something related to the DPP, the packaging, what is the first time placed in the EU, but not sold on the specific territory where it lands, or yeah, everything related to how to justify recyclable content within imported products. So I will give around 30 more seconds for you to answer this specific poll. And then, of course, I will be sharing the results for you to have a quick overview on yeah, what is the composition of the needs of the attendance here. Once again, thank you so much for joining. We are really happy to have you here. Okay, I will end the poll now and very quickly share the results. As we can see, most of you need to comply with the EUDR. Some of you, yeah, with the PPWR, EPR, and maybe others. Some of you may be overlapping with the compliance and regulatory landscape. So yeah, very happy to see this result. Okay, closing the poll now. Now, let's move to the final part of the presentation from 3R Sustainability. Traceability within the EUDR, which is linked to the presentation of our friends from Live EO. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So yeah, the EUDR, very quickly, what is it? It aims to ensure that products placed or exported from the EU are not linked to deforestation or forest degradation after the 31st of December 2030. All of this is linked to the global European goal, of course, which has different fronts, specifically with the contribution for global deforestation, biodiversity laws, permanence of specific cultures in the forest, reduction of yeah, adverse effect on climate change, so forth and so on. No? So the idea is to have a deforestation-free requirement. The products must not originate from land which is deforested after the cutoff date. It must comply with the laws of the country of production. Remember, each specific country has their own laws and regulation. Due diligence, of course, a mandatory risk assessment and mitigation by the different companies. Traceability, high on the agenda. All products must be traceable back to the specific plots of land through geolocation. And of course, a risk-based approach, countries which are classified either low standard or high risk as it is. But then again, the most important part is that although you might think, this is only related to forestry products and so on, that might not be entirely the reality, because it's also a cross-cutting regulation that touches on different fronts, and it links with other EU regulations. For example, with the previous regulation that was the EU timber regulation that has been repealed by the EUDR as well. And of course, touches on different sources which are linked to agricultural production. Can we go to the next slide, Ian, please? So where does it apply? Of course, everything related to cattle beef or leather, cocoa, coffee, palm oil, salt, wood, which is could be timber, paper, furniture. As you can see, could be either finished goods, packaging, packaged goods, so forth and so on. Within the industry, of course, we'll touch on agricultural commodity, agricultures, commodity producers, including food, beverage companies, retailers, supermarkets, manufacturers, importers, exporters, traders, and distributors. And moreover, the EUDR applies to anyone placing or trading relevant commodities within the EU. Stricter operations for operators and large companies. This is something that I saw in one of the questions there. And lighter but still important obligations for SMEs. There has been a very recent update that has been launched as of late, I think today, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, more updates are to come. We are not putting on the table whatever we have. We have managed to convey through the different available public resources. No, so again, the main driver of the deforestation process is, of course, gaining agricultural land linked to the production of commodities. But then again, the EU can be considered partially not responsible, but directly responsible for this process because of the demand of resources, and of course, is try to lead the way on how to minimize the negative impact of this process. No, but then again, it's not only important to have the willingness to do so; you need to be transparent about it. No, and then of course there needs to be some system in place, and this is the traceability system. No, we can see that on the next slide. Ian, please. So again, it's very strictly operationalized through because of the due diligence, the DDS, the due diligence statement, applied to commodities and derived product from the full upstream and the supply chain. Full upstream traceability or into plot level is important because then of course you have the geolocation, and from the geolocation you have the polygons, and if you don't have the polygons you have the dots, which our colleagues from LiveEO will be explaining further. It's very highly granular with coordinates batch level links, so there's no way for you to not be able to secure full transparency in this process. Aims to have a deforestation prevention to comply with the local regulations, legality, and environmental protections. Again, I repeat, the principle of geolocation, supply chain involvement and engagement, amount of products or volume of production that is placed in the UE, and the DDS, the due diligence statement. Strongly data-driven and digital, relies on geospatial tools, and of course, very high end-to-end supply chain mapping. As you can see, is everything that is placed within the European Union. But then again, you need to identify what your specific role is, what are your specific requirements. This is a very tricky space. And this is, again, cross-cutting throughout a lot of regulations, including PPR, EUDR, etc., etc. There are different roles, different levels of responsibility, a different level of engagements with your value chain. So it's important to highlight that, again, please map out which regulations you need to comply to and how can you make sense of this, asking one sweep action to collect information from your suppliers. If your suppliers need to constantly provide information, data to comply with requirements like 10 times a year, it will be much more difficult for them to engage and to provide useful information and with the level of quality that is required. So try to systematize this and act strategically. Now, before giving the floor to our colleagues from LiveEO, we will run with the last poll of the day. Just very quickly, this is the last poll. Please just do let us know. Well, what do you need assistance with, if anything? We have seen that some of you have need to comply with some regulations, maybe 2 or 3 of these regulations, maybe with principles of traceability, maybe you already started to create your due diligence statement, for instance, or the declaration of conformity within the PPWR. Maybe some of you want to understand how can you secure the statement of recyclability for your documents, so forth and so on. Maybe some of you need to understand your role in this entire process because maybe you import the good, but you do not produce the good, but your name is on the label, but you do not sell it at the first geographical space where it landed. Many things can happen. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to answer this, and we will be very happy to move further with our colleagues from LiveEO as well. Very excited to have you on board, Alberta and team. Okay, I will end this and share the results. As you can see, there is a lot of need. It's more or less even distributed. Very nice to see this. Thank you so much for participating. And now I will give the floor to Live EO.
Cool.
Alberta.
Hi, everyone. And curious to maybe learn at the end during the questions what the other in the poll was in terms of needs to see if we can support. Let me share my screen. So as mentioned at the beginning, but maybe for those of you who join a little bit later, I'm Alberta. I'm a strategic partnership lead here at Livio, and I'm here today with Tim. I don't know, Tim, if you want also to introduce yourself again.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Tim. I'm the product expert, so helping companies understand how Traceability works, any sort of technical integrations with core systems such as ERPs, or assisting with EUDR questions in general as well.
Super. And at the beginning, I always like to differentiate between two words that you will hear Tim and I say throughout the presentation. The first one is Livio. So Livio is the name of the company that Tim and I work for. It's a company established in 2018 in Berlin. We have offices in Germany, UK, US, Australia, and Latvia. We have more than 170 employees, and we gather more than 120 million in funding, and we have 3,600 organizations registered on TradeAware. TradeAware is the second word that I would like to clarify, and is the name of one of our products. And specifically, it is the products that we built solely to help companies comply with EUDR. And it's an end-to-end solution, as we will see in a few minutes. Below, you see a selection of our customers, just to give you an idea of the company that we support, and also of our partners, including, of course, 3R Sustainability. Moving forward, one thing that I think it's also cool mentioning is that the EO in our name, Livio, stands for Earth Observation. And we are, in fact, a geospatial company. So we build application based on satellite imagery, and we're also launching our own satellite constellation over the next 2 years. And it's going to be one of the most advanced systems for high resolution and three-dimensional observation of large areas and linear infrastructures. Well, let's move into EUDR. I think Cesar already gave us a very good introduction about the topic. I think what we can mention is that this is quite a hot moment for EUDR, because I think last week on Thursday, some updates have been released that have been confirmed this morning, and we try to briefly summarize them now. So this is what the EU Commission shared in terms of EUDR updates and simplification. And the summary is that I think companies need to start acting now, because not much has changed actually. So the requirements haven't been touched. In fact, the European Union Commission confirmed its intention of not touching the core of the legislation. They confirmed that the downstream operators and traders do not need to conduct due diligence. And the simplification review includes a delegated act adjusting the product scope. So palm oil and instant coffee are in scope, as well as the e-commerces that have been confirmed in scope. And there have been also some IT system improvements that are planned to make compliance easier for small operators. What stays the same is the deadline. So the large companies need to comply by the end of this year, and the small and medium enterprises by the 30th of June 2027. The 7 core commodities that also Cesar covered are still in scope, and the due diligence obligation remain exactly as originally defined. So depending on your role, you have different obligation in the EUDR, and this is just a refresher. There are 4 main roles: operator, downstream operator, trader, and macro and small primary operators. Operators are the ones that are, and also upstream, basically operator are the ones that are most in scope, because they are the first actor to place a regulated goods on the market or exported, that has not yet undergone due diligence. And so they have the burden, in a sense, the duty of fulfilling these due diligence requirements. Downstream operators are actors that transforms a product that has undergone the due diligence statement process into another regulated product. And trader are actors that makes the product that had previously undergone due diligence available on the market. While the micro and the small primary operators, they are companies established basically in low-risk countries that place these relevant products on the market or export them after growing, harvesting, or raising such commodities. And we can help you, Tim and I, also understand where you fit within this category. But basically, key takeaways, the operator obligations have not changed. Companies have time to prepare now until the end of the year. And as it was true last year, most of the work that company needs to do is the HS code mapping, also based on the new products introduced, like the soap coming from palm oil and the instant coffee. And you need to understand the position in the supply chain, according, for example, to the roles that I've just covered, and also start educating suppliers, because as we will see, that's the step that usually takes the most time. When it comes to the platform overview, Tim will give a quick demo in a few minutes. What I want to highlight is that TradeAware is one of the leading solutions in the market for end-to-end compliance with EUDR, and we built it to minimize compliance risk. So we don't want EUDR to be just a tick-the-box exercise, because we've seen also the synergies with the other regulations. Really want to turn compliance with EUDR into a competitive advantage. Our solution has 3 main modules. The first one is about data gathering. So through a system of invites, the team will demo in a minute, you're able to connect with your tier 1 suppliers, and tier 1 suppliers are able to connect with their sub-suppliers, and so on and so forth, until we reach the point of the chain where the geolocation, there are the core data of, there is the core data of EUDR is known. While we collect the geolocation, we also serve a supplier questionnaire that has been vetted by our partner CMS, and we're able to collect also the legal information that we need according to the legislation. The core of our tool, as we will see, is the risk assessment. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are a Earth observation company, so we have one of the most accurate deforestation assessment thanks to our satellite capabilities. We can really detect deforestation with a high accuracy. And then we also perform a risk assessment. We have different levels of risk assessment. We can do it with AI, or we can do it with our partner CMS. There is one of the top 10 law firms globally for ESG. And basically, they review the data uploaded by your suppliers into the tool, and they give back directly an evaluation of that information directly into TradeAware. And then, of course, there is a product element, right, when it comes to EUDR, because all of this data and assessment needs to be connected at a product level. And thanks to our API, we're able to connect with virtually any ERP system, and we are able to basically then help you file your due diligence statements, and also we send it directly as an authorized representative to Traces, that is the European Union Information System. So this is a lot of information. It's of course a high-level view, and I hand it over to Tim now for a more in-depth deep dive. Sorry for my voice as well. Hope you could follow me.
Great, so I'll be walking through TradeAware on a high level. I'll just be presenting for around 10 minutes. I'll keep it quite quick. And if anyone has any questions, that's obviously the most important thing as to why we're also here. So feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we'll be answering them at the end. So I will quickly share my screen. And this is what TradeAware looks like as a platform, as a software. It is a web-based application, which means there's no software that you need to install on your device, so on your phone or on your computer. You can just access it through your standard web browsing, such as Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Firefox, whatever you might be using. It's also an API-first platform, so it means we release features in the API first, and then we release them within the UI. So anything I'll be showing today can also be fully automated with our APIs. In the middle here is just the globe or the Earth. It's interactable. If you've ever used Google Earth before, it'll feel quite similar, to be honest. So you can zoom in, zoom out as you wish. You can search for specific locations. You can even locate yourself on the map. On the top left side will be all of the plots of land that have been uploaded by your supply chain itself. So this could be the paper, the packaging manufacturers, it could be the paper mills or pulp mills or whoever it may be. You can also have a list of all of your suppliers within the platform itself. So we don't just provide you access when you're a customer of ours, we can also give access to your entire upstream supplier base. So that can be the manufacturers outside of Europe, paper mills outside of Europe, forestry companies. So we can essentially make a digital twin of your supply chain. You also have a list of all of your buyers. This is more of a way for your suppliers to share data with you, to form a connection. Transactions would be our native integration to EU Traces. Currently, Traces is not operational, but we'll be walking through quickly also how to generate and submit a due diligence statements in Traces via our platform in case of when you're importing packaging directly into the EU. The questionnaires tab, just to get your suppliers to answer EUDR questionnaires to understand the legality side of things when it comes to the underlying products. There is an AI bot available. It's just trained on our documentation. So you can ask it questions if you get stuck. Otherwise, you can also go to our public documentation, which has pretty much everything I'm about to say written here as well. And then finally, in the top right, we have the user settings. So this is where you can update your user profile. You can set your business information. So as Alberta mentioned, we connect natively with EU Traces. We act as an authorized representative, which means the only technical thing that our customers need to do to connect their trader environment to their environment within Traces is just to fill in this business information, since we generate the DDS on behalf of operators. Equally, you can also create multiple legal entities within one account, so we can support centralized DDS management if one entity within a group of companies wants to generate the DDSs for all the entities. We can also support a decentralized approach, so we can give a different trader environment to each entity within a group of companies, or a hybrid of this, so a combination of the both. You can also add additional team members, check your contract usage, create multiple environments if you want a test environment or demo environment, get access to the API to start automating some tasks, as well as set up webhooks to get notifications within your systems themselves. So that's just a quick look around in terms of the UI. I've already set up a full workflow within the platform itself. So this is a company I've called Northbridge Packaging, based in Germany, who's importing packaging into the EU market. I've already come to my suppliers and I've invited my suppliers into the platform. In this case, I've just invited Jade Crest Manufacturing. They're my packaging manufacturer based in China, for example. If I now switch to my packaging manufacturer's environment, this is now Jade Crest's environment. We can see that because I can see Northbridge as the buyer to this company, and equally, me being the manufacturer, I probably don't know where the trees were harvested from. So I will invite my suppliers into the platform as well. So this is our cascading delegation invitation system. You manage your immediate suppliers, their suppliers manage their suppliers, and so on and so forth. Everyone has the same standardized portal to upload their EUDR evidence to. It's also interoperable with other systems, so you're able to upload it to other solutions as well. If we go down one more layer, we can see the sub-supply here is a paper and pulp manufacturer. And let's say this is the entity that's uploading the geolocation data, just to keep it somewhat simple within the platform, so we don't get into complex supply chains. I can upload some plots of land directly. I've already uploaded some plots just to save time, but I can either draw plots directly on the map, or I can import a GeoJSON file if I want to do bulk uploads within the platform. As we can see, myself being Green Fiber Pulpco, I was the one that uploaded the geolocation data, but the ultimate importer into the EU, when we come into plots of land here, we'll be able to just see the plots as if it was uploaded by their tier 1. So we're not exposing any sort of business secrets within the platform. Every single plot of land will immediately get analyzed with open source data sets. So if we click into one of these plots of land, We can then see where exactly this land is actually located within Canada itself. So we can zoom in, zoom out as we wish to see it's by White Court, for example. And when we look at the details here, we have open source screening that's already been conducted. And then we have LiveViewer's proprietary precision analytics, which is our GIS expert review of the plot of land. When we click into the plot of land, we can see the data sets that are being used. Currently, there's just 3 for timber. 2 of these are from the EU Commission in support of EUDR. The last one is from the University of Maryland, also called the GLAD dataset. These just help to understand from a very high level, was there forest there in 2020? That's essentially what this dataset is trying to understand. Was the forest type primary forest or naturally regenerating forest? That's what this data type is trying to uncover for you. And then the GLAD data set is just about whether canopy tree cover loss has occurred, regardless of the land type, for example. So this is great. Early indicators, it's done automatically. It's done in near real time. And then, of course, there's false positives a lot within the timber industry using these data sets. So we would always recommend using the precision analytics, where one of our GIS experts would then review the plot of land for you, pull the satellite imagery, conduct an analysis. Equally, the suppliers can also answer questionnaires directly within the platform. So here I can see Jade Crest Manufacturing has already answered the questionnaire, which I'm able to view. I'm able to download and export all of their answers, as well as all the supporting documents. And either I can decide to review this document myself internally if I have that expertise, or the legal counsel. I could get LiveViewer's partner, CMS, the law firm, to do the review for me. So that I get third-party lawyers to tell me the compliance status, or we're releasing a new AI-powered feature to provide you with a supply 360 view instead. And the end result of this process is we collect the geodata, we do the assessments to make sure there's been no deforestation, we collect the legality documents to make sure the trees were harvested legally under the laws of the relevant country. And then lastly, we want to then generate a DDS. In this case, it's something called a transaction. Currently, as I've mentioned, Traces is down, so I couldn't do this ahead of time because there's nothing for us to call currently since Traces isn't working. But here we're able to generate a DDS for a specific entity. In this case, it's just Northridge Packaging. We're then able to add an internal reference number. So this is a purchase order, for example. This will be an import into Germany. And I can then select which products I'd like to cover. So 4415, this is coming from Jade Crest. These are the relevant plots. This is my net mass, for example. And then I can custom product description if I want. I'll just zoom out a bit, as well as the scientific and common names being populated itself. And that's just in a simple way how LiveViewer works, all the way from onboarding your suppliers, collecting the raw data, doing the risk assessments, if there's any sort of risk mitigation actions to take depending on what we find, and then finally demonstrating your compliance, generating a DDS to clear your shipments through customs itself. And I believe we can hand it back to Alberta.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim and Alberta. I think we do have a couple more minutes, maybe just to answer a couple more questions. I don't know if you, maybe Alberta or Tim, you can maybe just touch on the questions which are directly related for instance, one of the questions is, if are cardboard packaging eligible for the EUDR, or is it only products made out of paper, wood, and cardboard?
When you import packaging as a product in its own right, it needs to comply because you're releasing it for free circulation. If you're simply using the packaging to package a non-relevant product, like a car, for example, then it doesn't need to comply. That's when it first comes into the EU market itself. Then when it's within the EU market, there's different sort of roles that you could have in terms of being an operator or downstream operator. So it very much depends on when you import. Are you importing it as a product in its own right, or are you using it to protect another product that's not relevant, or to package another product that's not relevant? And then within the EU, it depends on where you're sitting within the EU supply chain, and then what you're obviously also doing with the packaging. So it has many different answers depending on your exact scenario.
Yeah, but it will be definitely be sanctioned under PPWR. So it's either one or the other, because PPWR takes into account packaging and packaged goods as well, as long as the package is not inherently part of the use of the product. For instance, for instance, flowers. You have a vase, you cannot sell the flower just because you need the vase, because it's inherently part of the final product. But if it's packaging, the cardbox for sure will be sanctioned by the PPWR. We have another question here. Are the suppliers increasing the prices of goods and the lead time due to customers asking for information about the source of the commodities under the EUDR, which is collection of legal documents, geolocation of the plots of lands? If is there a trend that you might have seen there, Tim or Alberta, on this specific front?
The question again, was hard to follow it.
Yeah.
It's in the chat or?
It is in the Q&A. If you see the question thread with the question mark, you can see the questions there.
It's the recycled content.
No, there's one that says.
Yeah, it's by Marcia Murakami. Are the suppliers increasing the price of goods and the lead time due to customers asking for information about the source of the commodities under the EUDR?
Oh, I was on the wrong thread. Okay, no, now I see a lot of questions. Yes, I would say, at least initially, a lot of producers or even manufacturers outside of the EU are looking to start providing EUDR compliant, whatever the products may be. This is more of a premium that will happen at the beginning until everyone has to comply with the EUDR at the end of the year and into 2027. Because at that point, bringing products in, you have to be compliant. So it's more just any importer that kind of is a late starter to EUDR, hasn't had time to assess their supply chain. Maybe this kind of offering is more attractive to them because all of the work has already been done essentially by other companies itself. In terms of the lead times, it really depends. In terms of collecting the information, the longest I've heard of was around 9 months because it was a US company selling to a company in Brazil who sold to a company in China and so on, until it eventually got to the EU market and they knew that that lead time was going to take 9 months. Anything they produce now, it was paper, would take around 9 months to then get into the EU. So they knew already that they had to start preparing all the data, otherwise their immediate customer wouldn't purchase it because the request has essentially been delegated down all the way down the supply chain. So I don't think there's a lot of supply chains that have that long lead time. It's normally 3 months or so, I would say. But the closer we get to the end of the year, the more and more you'll see this kind of stress. So it's better to start early than be late, I would say, and get replaced.
Great. One additional question that I would like to answer as well is, my understanding is that the eco-modulation for recycled content is only applicable if the recycled material comes from within the EU. I see that Ian already provided some answer there. I would like to add context to this as well. What happens if we import packaging made from outside the EU? How can we prove recycled content and recyclability? Just like Ian mentioned, recycled content from the outside the EU can still come for a eco-modulation fee. But of course, you need to provide some sort of third-party statement, depending on the country where does it come from. There are national regulations. I remember I used to work with KECO, which is the Korean Environmental Corporation. They do have their own regulation for this. In China as well, there is one regulation, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the environmental labeling, I think it is, CEC. So they have their own ways to prove recyclability content as well. So just like Ian, Alberta?
Sorry, I have a problem with my camera and I was trying to, sorry.
Not a problem. So yes, within the EU, there are some information required for a recycling, let's say, statement, but outside can be a little bit more demanding, so to speak. But you need to have, just like Ian mentioned, the correct certification, the foreign PCR content. Otherwise, there might be risks. For example, just like Ian mentioned, treated as virgin plastic on the PPWR and EPR. So make sure that you source your proof of recyclability at origin whenever feasible. There are national programs that can help you with this on this specific front. This being said, I believe we already Overstay or welcome. We were planning for 45 minutes, but this is so engaging that people is getting really excited. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. We will be very happy to follow up. You will be receiving the material as well with a link to the session. And we will be staying in touch to follow up to see how can we further assist you. Once again, thank you so much, Alberta and team from Live EO, and to Ian as well. Amazing presentation. And we look forward to see you on the next session. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.